All right, guys, this is Normal Central coming back at you with a YouTube video. Man, it's been a while since I've done YouTube. It's been a couple of days. I've had a couple of personal matters coming up and everything. And then also I've been sick a little bit more with allergies too. So been kind of battling back and forth. My voice is still kind of get back into control, but I really appreciate all the patience, all the love and support so far. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, because guess what? Fall camp is finally about to start coming back up on Wednesday. It is super exciting to have Florida State football back in the fold again. Only winning 7 games for the last 2 years has not been fun for Florida State fans, and we all know it. This is not something that Florida State fans are greatly excited for right now. And you want to see results finally take the picture for everything up right now. Words can only mean so much. It has to be actions. And obviously, we saw last year where Florida State was able to beat Alabama. And you saw that amazing and exciting opener. And then it just basically got overrun at the very end of the year, losing 70 or last nine. And Florida State just basically went off the deep end. So you're hoping that Florida State can finally find its momentum and actually sustain that momentum. And I think it's very important because all these players, like for example, you're taking a big leap in terms of having a transfer quarterback come into the program once again in Ashton Daniels. He had a stint over at Stanford for a couple of years and then had last year with Auburn. And there were some good moments, but the problem is 24 touchdowns, 22 interceptions on his career. And I mean, that's not going to get it done at Florida State. You need to have a consistency. You need to be able to score touchdowns and put points on the scoreboard. And it's not something that Florida State fans have not really seen much lately. But let's go ahead and get straight into the video now. I want to kind of talk about the depth chart in terms of what Florida State can bring to the table. I'm going to give a full depth chart right before on Wednesday, probably of my predictions on how the depth chart's going to shake up. But I do want to give some highlights on some guys I think that can make some moves. Not necessarily saying that they will make the starters in terms of that, but I do think that these guys are going to be making immediate impacts that I don't think you're going to really recognize early on in their careers. The first one is tight end Chase Lofton. This is a guy that Mike Norvell absolutely loves at the tight end position. And I understand tight end is a position where you're looking at it like, man, we have like 6, 7 guys. We keep getting tight ends. What is going on here? And I think Chase Lofton is one of those guys, a former 4-star prospect they loved out of the state of Nebraska. And it's a guy that Florida State really wanted for a long time. You really didn't think Florida State was going to be able to get it done. Obviously, you're recruiting against Nebraska, a home, basically state kid, but I think that this was a Big Ten kid that you really wanted to get in a tight end position that you're almost basically it's a glorified wide receiver at this point. 6'6", about 230 pounds. Chase Lofton is a guy that I really am excited to see because you look at it. You're getting rid of Randy Pittman. He went over to SMU to transfer over there. Then you got Desirial Riles that I really do like out of ECU, but he doesn't have that complete package just yet. You think he's more of a pass catcher, maybe a Jaheim Bell type of situation there. And then you have Landon Thomas as your backup tight end. What is going to happen? I mean, Landon Thomas has only played in really not that much time. He's been hurt. There's been a lot of things going on there. And yes, Florida State did keep him from transferring out of the program, but Chase Lofton is a guy they're super excited about. And I think once you kind of get more into the swing of things, he played a little bit as a true freshman, but I think getting him more involved in the offense, I think is going to be a huge thing for Florida State, having that safety blanket for what they need this season. The second guy I think is going to be a huge get is wide receiver Tayshawn Gelsey. And this is a guy that I don't think a lot of people are really taking advantage of. A former 4-star prospect. It's kind of that wide receiver, tight end slash hybrid. He's going to be more of a wide receiver, obviously, but his bigger body type can almost be utilized as anywhere. Excellent blocker, good pass catching option, especially when you think about how Florida State was not able to capitalize in the red zone at times and being more consistent. You were trying to take more field goals later in the year. You didn't really put teams away. And I think this could be a guy like I know a Deuce Robinson is 6'6". He can be that guy. Danzy's your lightning speed type of guy. But man, I think if you get Gelsey in a good situation there, if you really need a 3rd down and 9 and a guy with secure hands, back shoulder throws, what Mike Norvell used to love with Johnny Wilson and stuff like that, could be the key right there. Not necessarily saying that Gelsey's going to be a Johnny Wilson. He's not slow. He's a very fast guy. But I do think that this is a guy that if you want to see homegrown talent instead of you bringing out your transfer guys and stuff like that, and you want to see someone that can be healthy, man, Gelsey, if he is healthy, that would be amazing for Florida State and the receiving options that you could have with him and Lofton. Woo. Let me go ahead and give the third guy and the last guy we're going to talk about in this video, and that's going to be defensive lineman Deontay McCrae. I know, I get it. Transfer portal last year, Western Kentucky. He was part of that. James Williams and Jason Jenkins from Tennessee. They are already transferred out of the program. You already talked about Diamante Diggs, who Mike Norvell is super excited about, and I get it. Mike Norvell is excited about a lot of players, and he's never going to put his players under the bus. But McCrae, he did show flashes at times. Coming out last year was that hybrid defensive tackle, defensive end hybrid. He's going to probably play the one tech this year, but I do think that there is a lot of defensive linemen that are going to take steps this season, like the Desir twins, for example. Those are two guys that I think are going to be phenomenal. Specifically, Mandrell was the one that got most of the hype, but Darryl is going to be also great as well. Rylan Kennedy, another guy, defensive end from Texas Tech, is going to be another key component for Florida State. Daniel Lyons at the defensive tackle position. Kevin Wynn. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think there's a lot of quality defensive end and defensive tackles that are going to be in this system, but the problem is they have to piece it all together. And yes, I understand also that Jordan Sanders, the Texas State transfer, has been out for the last couple of weeks and everything, and he's kind of getting back to the swing of things after missing the entire spring. And I just wonder how that's going to factor into McCrae, because McCrae has actually taken a huge step this offseason in trying to prioritize getting better at the defensive scheme and everything. And the biggest thing I wonder is how are they going to factor in Tony White's year two scheme? Because it seemed like so many times last year they were put in good positions, they just weren't able to make the plays. And then there were times where they were completely lost and weren't even close to being in position. You have to be more consistent in that aspect. You saw the Alabama game, there were great flashes in that game. But then you turn around the last game of the season, you had Jaden Baugh rush for 266 yards, and that cannot happen at Florida State. You have to have guys that are there. And McCrae had almost a mental lapse in terms of last year against Pittsburgh. He had that we were in the red zone and everything, and all of a sudden, their quarterback was coming and scrambling out of the pocket, and you had a sack in your hands with Mason Heinschel, and then you weren't able to do it. And next thing you know, McCrae missed the tackle, and they were able to score a touchdown. I mean, you cannot have those moments and everything else with those quality games that Florida State's going to have to have. You cannot let a true freshman come into your home and beat you. And that's exactly what Pittsburgh's quarterback and Pittsburgh in general did in that game. So I am super excited to see what McCrae does this season. Those are my three that I think you should watch out for, specifically on the depth chart. Who are your three players that you think are going to be super exciting for Florida State and maybe making some movement in this depth chart? Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out my social media pages. I'm trying to build as much community as Florida State people as I can, because guess what? The season is almost a month away. Can we believe it at this point? It has been a long off season. Florida State has not had postseason success in forever. It feels like 6 of the last 8 years we have not even have a postseason. I really want to see Florida State get back to where they need to be, and I hope that it happens this season. But I hope each and every one of you have a great rest of the day. And as always, go Noles.